to Good For You with me, your host, Lucia Drummond. Now, Good For You is the show where we talk about all those Good For You moments and we celebrate all those Good For You moments in your life. Now, I've got some great guests lined up to take you on this phenomenal journey of self-discovery, development, and really having that glow up in life. I'm Lucia Drummond, I'm your host, and as an author, motivational speaker, and life coach, I'm so passionate about seeing people progress. Now, I get a ton of questions on social media, and so I've decided to answer some of those questions each and every week in the show. Now, we've got some great things we're going to cover, and today's topic is a big one. We're going to be talking about dealing with and juggling negativity, anxiety, but still living that dream life. So stay tuned. Today's going to be a good one. So glad you're here because we are diving into something that is so important. Now, we live in a world where everything just flows into our lives all the time. And so many of the things that flow into our lives are negative. With the news, even if you're just talking to your neighbor, if you go on social media, there's so much negativity. And there's no wonder we're feeling low, tired, despondent, exhausted, unmotivated. Of course, with so much negativity coming in all the time, we need to pump ourselves up and add some positivity. Now, I've got someone that is so beautiful, and I'm so excited to have her here. The one and only, the amazing, the beautiful Mishka Lush is in studio. Now, you know her from TV. I'm nervous sitting next to her because she usually does this. You know her as a TV presenter. She's been on the Miss South Africa stage. She's also a radio presenter, motivational speaker. Wait, we still have a show to get to. I can't add all the other stuff.
Oh my word, what an
Welcome.
intro. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
It's awesome to have you here.
Thank
And
you.
I wanted to have you here because I believe you have such an important story to share. You're someone that we look up to you. We know you from TV. We've
Aww.
seen you there all these years. And we don't know what's always happening behind the scenes.
True.
And there's a lot happening behind the scenes. So I want to touch on something that happened a few years ago. You had just gone on Miss South Africa. We were like, who is this gorgeous, tall woman? And you're going through all of that, and we're just celebrating this new woman that's going for it, that's glowing up, that's growing up. But at the same time, you dealt with something in your personal life, a tragedy in your family. How did you actually balance this time where you're chasing your dreams, you're going for it in life, and then also dealing with this very personal tragedy?
This happened in 2015. I think in 2014 I did Miss South Africa. 2015 I was on presenter search on 3. And during that whole process, in March 2015, my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, which was an absolute shock to myself and my family, especially because my baby sister then, she was only 4 years old.
Sure.
And I'm a complete optimist. I believed and I promised the entire world, I promised my brother, I promised my dad that God will come through and she will get better. I honestly and passionately believed that she would.
Yeah.
I was 23 at the time, just turned 23, and unfortunately, September,
Sure.
we lost her. And I had 2 weeks to woman up. And I was on the road for Vasella for my first time ever
Wow.
being a TV presenter at the age of 23. Lost my mother 2 weeks ago, and I didn't have time to grieve. I had to immediately become a mother to my then 4-year-old sister. I didn't have the time to even think about how it's impacting my life because I had too many other things that I needed to take care of and be strong for, especially my dad, because 3 months prior to losing my mother, he lost his mother, we lost our grandmother.
Oh my goodness.
And when my mother passed a month later, we lost our cat, who's our baby in the house, and he died of a broken heart. Well, how
Sure.
crazy is that?
That is wild.
So looking back, it was one of the worst experiences and years of my life, but I had to grow so fast.
I can just imagine.
Mentally, spiritually, emotionally. As a 23-year-old, boom, daar raak ek 'n ma. I became a mom
Wow.
overnight. In hindsight today, 6 years later, I understand why it had to happen, and it's because of her that I am who I am, and it's because of the experiences that we go through that we become who we are.
Oh my goodness. That is just so powerful, and obviously you had to be such a strong person to be able to come this far, do what you needed to do. I cannot even imagine. We have only just begun. We're going to an ad break, and after this we're diving into this a little deeper. We also have psychologist Simone that's going to be here and really help us with anxiety and tackling negativity. Hello and welcome back to Good For You. Now we've got a phenomenal topic today, and if you've just missed it, we've got some great guests in studio. So if you've just joined, welcome to today. And first off, we kicked it off with Mishka, and you must tune in because there's so much more we're going to cover. And then we're also welcoming another special guest today. We've got Simone Arendse in here. She is a psychologist. She's been in the industry for 10 years. She's going to help us dive into everything to do with negativity, anxiety, and living that best life that we all want to live. Simone, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's lovely to be on the show.
I'm so excited to have you here, and I'm so excited to dive into this topic. Now, I know this is going to sound pretty ridiculous, but I'm going to share it anyway. A few years ago, I would have these, I couldn't breathe sometimes. But you know what? I pegged it on, oh, it must just be my polar neck that's a bit tight. maybe this bra strap is a bit tight today, you know. I pegged it on that type of thing, and we used to just laugh it off like it was some kind of joke. We didn't really peg it to, oh my gosh, this is anxiety, or this is, you know, this type of thing. We just thought it was, I was rushing too much when I was getting dressed.
And we almost, sorry if I can add to it, it almost felt, it has to be normal. Whatever you're feeling has to be a normal experience. It can't be something wrong.
Absolutely. And anxiety and those type of things, that's a luxury that I could not afford to have. So for the person on the street, just the regular person, what are some signs like, hey, I might actually be experiencing anxiety?
So Lucia, as you so beautifully described, people usually feel it in their bodies first. That's usually a first indication, right, that they're experiencing some kind of anxiety. So a lot of people say, I feel like there's a pressure on my chest, or a tightness, difficulty breathing, shortness of breath, hot flushes, feeling sweaty, shakiness, feeling faint, stomach turning, tense muscles, feeling lightheaded. So it's usually people always first feel it in their bodies, right? They'll go to their GPs, and their GPs will usually say, this is anxiety. And then they'll end up with a psychologist usually, right? And then by the time they get to us, we start also looking at the thoughts, the cognitions, the triggers, you know, that is contributing to them experiencing that anxiety. So it's physical and mental.
Absolutely. So just throwing on that whole topic, Mishka, you go into so many people, whether media, social media, speaking engagements, there's so many things that you do, and in your career, what you need to do is bring the vibe. So you always need to bring the vibe, whether you're on radio, whatever it is. So how do you maintain your own vibe so that you are able to deliver so often to everyone else?
I just wanted to say that every single thing you just listed, I've experienced. And I think mine stemmed back once again, the moment I lost my mom. It was a moment where I had no control. And that is my trigger. That's what I had to realize is my trigger. When I lose control over a situation, whether it can either hurt me emotionally, physically, or mentally, I go into full anxiety panic mode. I've lost the use of my legs in a car while getting a panic attack. I couldn't breathe. I had every single thing she just listed. But when it comes to work, my anxiety stems from outside of work. The anxiety that you feel during an interview like this, just before you walk onto stage, I wouldn't say that's anxiety. That's like a healthy, nervous.
Yes, that excitement.
Yes, that's butterflies. That's not the same thing whatsoever. And so many people questions me, you know, when you walk out on the stage, is it the same feeling that you're feeling in comparison to anxiety? Not at all. Anxiety is paralyzing. It disables you completely, and you have no control for however long that episode might last. You have no control, while this is healthy. And for me, because I do what I love, feeling butterflies, feeling that excited nerves, that is the bonus. That keeps me on my toes. You know, they say you should always do something with your life that challenges you. And this is my job for me. That is what my job means to me. So you can't compare the two, but I know and I still am learning how to cope with living with anxiety.
All
Yeah.
right, sure. So with so much negativity,
Yes.
and we know there's a lot of negativity. So I am a big believer of if you're going to ingest so much negativity, news, series, social media, a story, a sad story about your friend, you know, all those things happening, you also have to balance it out with positivity. You have to actually make that a priority in your life that you are filling your bank with love and goodness and positivity. So with us hearing all this negativity, it inducing more anxiety, making us feel like everything's out of control and we're feeling stressed. What are some tips? What is some advice that people can use to really manage and just cope and put systems in place that can help them feel more in control and limit their exposure of that experience of anxiety?
Okay. So, I mean, boundaries, such a buzzword right now, but it's always been a cornerstone of good mental health. So, really being mindful of who you allow into your mental space and what.
If I mean,
Yeah.
just setting up boundaries gives me anxiety. But so true, it makes so much sense.
Yeah, and then as I explained earlier, it's physical and it's mental. So you need to treat it on a physical and a mental level. So physically, deep breathing. It sounds so cliche, but it's so powerful for managing anxiety. There's lots of different kind of techniques. I won't go into it now, but I'll just mention a few. Grounding is really good for panic attacks, visualization, imagery, learning to just relax your muscles, right? So a lot of physical things, and then mentally also understanding your triggers, identifying it, learning to challenge it, learning to modify it. So physically and mentally you need to have coping skills, and different people have different things. So what works for one person might not work for the other person. Yoga works for you, singing works for you, or painting works for you. So a lot of people have different outlets. Some need creative outlets, some people need spiritual outlets, some people need emotional and mental outlets, some people need support. They need people around them to help them through it. So it's about figuring out what works for you as well.
Now we're about to go to a break, and I'm going to ask this ridiculous question just so we can all agree for that person sitting at home. If we suppress this long enough, will it disappear?
I'm not going to give you the fluffy answer, but no.
Not at all.
It's not going to disappear.
Absolutely.
So if you are dealing with something like this, make sure that you deal with it. You can get the help and support that you need. And just listening to this team of phenomenal people sitting here with me today, there are different ways to deal with things. And we are all different, unique people. And there might be something that works for you that doesn't work for someone else. Or maybe someone recommended something and it did not work for you, and then you thought, I'm not even going to bother working with this because it doesn't work. Find that special thing that works for you. You do not have to go through life filled with frustration, negativity, and anxiety. You can have that beautiful life. Now, in the next segment, stay tuned. When we return, we're going to be answering some questions from the public that you've sent in. Your question might be answered, but we're going to make sure we tackle this negativity and anxiety. Welcome back to Good For You. We're about to dive into our panel questions where we discuss some of the answers to the questions that you've been asking. So I'm going to give each of my fantastic guests the opportunity to choose. Okay, Mishka, since you were the first guest, you can choose from 1 to 4.
3.
Number 3, all right, let's see what it is. There we go. Number 3, this one says, if you have people in your life that make you feel anxious, how do you deal with that? Because these people aren't going anywhere. So they're going to stay in your life. Maybe it is, a cousin or a brother or whatever. They're going to stay in your life, but they make you feel so stressed and anxious. Ladies, how are we going to deal with this? Mishka, give it a go.
I won't necessarily say I've had to deal with this family-wise, but I know when I'm in a situation, whether it's friends, even if it's someone I know for decades, if I don't get the energy that I need, or if I get a bad feeling or bad energy or bad vibrations, whatever you want to call it, what I've learned being nearly 30, I'm 30 soon, I cut the cord because the energy is no longer valid and it doesn't serve me anymore. And I'll first have a conversation to address why I feel we might have outgrown one another or we're not on the same paths anymore. And if it doesn't change, it's just I don't have space for it anymore. I just don't. And that is the honest truth. We're here to talk the truth, and that is how I deal with it.
Absolutely. Simone?
I'm going to give a little bit of a more controversial answer. Okay. So I think that you first need to ask yourself if it is feedback or is it criticism. I think if you can make that distinction, that's the first step. Because once you answer that question, then you can know what to do next, right? So sometimes we need to get feedback. You know, we need to get constructive feedback. And so I think you can ask yourself, is it meant to hurt me or harm me? Right? Who is saying it to me? Is it someone that just has an opinion about everyone else? Because then you're not going to internalize that, right? Or is it my boss that's trying to help me along with my productivity, and so I need to listen to this feedback, right? And so I think that's important because, yes, there's a lot of negativity, right? And we need to set boundaries around it, just like we already mentioned. But sometimes feedback can also be touching a deeper wound. And if it's touching something deeper, then it's also something that you as an individual need to work with your own self-talk and that sort of thing.
That makes a lot of sense, because if you do have, someone left you way back, and now you're so worried that other people are going to abandon you or reject you, and now you start to feel so anxious all the time. So really also looking into yourself, what is the connection there? I really do like that. Like you mentioned earlier, boundaries, I like that, and that's what you were touching on as well, putting those boundaries in place to protect yourself. So I think that is very powerful. Okay, Simone, you'll go.
Let's go with number one.
Number one. Let's see. Okay, number one says, when I feel like it's all too overwhelming in that moment, how can I calm myself down?
Okay, all right. So I would always say start with just calming the body, right? Because the mind can't function if the body's in distress. Just like you were saying, it can be so debilitating that you lose complete functioning of your body, right? So I would always say do something that first calms your body, right? And once your body is in a balanced state, then you can do the mind work, right? So breathing is always a really nice basic go-to when it comes to feeling overwhelmed in the moment. Okay, I'm going to take a couple of deep breaths. You can attach it with like a coping statement or something that you're saying to yourself in that moment. And once you in a more balanced state, then you can go in a little bit deeper and try to figure out, like, what do I need to do now? Which coping skill, which coping mechanism do I need to apply right now?
Fantastic. Mishka, what do you want to add?
She literally took the words out of her mouth, because that's what I do. When I feel even slightly overwhelmed, I go to breath work immediately. And it's the one thing that really truly does help. Whenever I feel overwhelmed or a panic attack or anxiety attack coming, it actually stops it before it can even happen.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's why I see on movies often if someone's like having a panic attack, they lie on the floor.
Yes,
they just lie on the
or
floor
deep
and start
breath.
breathing.
Absolutely.
Yes. One of the things that I do is I'll often talk myself out of the moment, because once I'm in this moment and I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, I don't know then immediately I'm like, no, is this actually so big? Is this actually going to affect my whole entire life, or is this just in the moment? Okay, what can I do to just step back? How can I control? I have to like have a conversation with myself, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, it's not actually that bad. So I talk myself off the edge,
Yes.
So that really makes a difference. Thank you so much, ladies, for having you, for coming, for being here, for being on the show. It's been phenomenal to have you, to share your story. And I mean, it's so amazing that you can share a personal story and we can watch you shine, but know that it's someone who's working through things. I love that.
Thank you.
And then Simone, you just added that structure for us, just what we need to really put things, it makes it seem like when we do something or go through something, we are on our own. No one else understands. But as you speak, it makes it feel so normal. No, this is happening. Let's deal with it. There's systems to deal with it. I love that. Thank you so much, ladies. How can people follow you, catch you?
Mishka Lush. Just find me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or my website, www.mishkalush.co.za.
Fantastic. And then Simone, if people say, you know what, I'm convinced, I need a session, how do people find you?
They can Google me, Simone Arendse Psychologist, and you'll find my details. And then I also have a Facebook page called Simone Arendse Clinical Psychologist.
Fantastic. Simple as that. Some phenomenal guests here. I hope that you took something out of today's show. I mean, it was just so powerful. It was so awesome to see these wonderful ladies just add value and bring some clarity. So you don't have to sit there wondering why you can't breathe. You can actually know, hey, this might be a bit of anxiety. This is actually something that I need to deal with. It's not a luxury
just for other people, but I got to get stuff done in life. It's actually stuff that you can deal with. So some tips from today: do that breath work. Find your breath moment. Calm yourself down. Go see someone if you need to see someone. Nothing wrong with that. No shame in that. Rather live your best life and deal with stuff than live a life frustrated, anxious, stressed, and never knowing what is wrong with you. No, live that best life. Live with peace. Live with joy. We've got some amazing women that shared their stories today, and that hopefully inspires you to go and grab that dream life that you want to live as well. That's it from me today. I am giving away another prize. I am giving away my book, 21 Days in Full Bloom. Comment on this episode's post on my Instagram page and you could be the winner. I'm so happy that you joined us today. I hope you feel good. Let me know if you have any questions and we'll be sure to answer it in one of the upcoming shows. Till next time, bye-bye.